to add antennas. I feel like it makes the model look a little more real. With the Mopars, I'll take the end of a radiator hose and I'll cut it off because it has the little peg on it, and I'll drill through that and add a piece of wire. And I feel like it pretty accurately represents what the antenna base looks like.
Doug White from Model Car Muse. We're here at Classic Plastic just outside of Boston for the Model Car Show. Here with Nathan Walker, and he has some really great replica stock. What's your favorite so far?
I kind of like the brown Camaro. I tried to go for a factory style color, but also kind of that was popular at the time, you know, in the 80s, late 70s, brown was big, and it's not, you know, not anymore. So
yeah, that was like the color to have, and with the gold stripes, all comes together.
The gold stripes is kind of what sold me on the color. You know, their Keith Marks decals. I thought they'd really pop against the gold. You know, I try to get a lot of contrast in the body color, the interior color. You know, just so the model really pops, kind of like the Plum Crazy and the white. That's kind of what led me to go down that road with that one.
So these are all 1/25th scale from the box with a lot of added decals.
So I don't do anything crazy. It's mainly out of the box, but a lot of times I'll switch up the wheels. So like the Charger, you know, I wanted to go factory correct, so I sourced some, you know, the factory rallies. The wheels on the Pontiac Firebird are from Fireball Model Works, so they're resin pieces. But generally I'll stick with what's out of the kit, you know, engine, add some minor detailing under the hood, nothing crazy. Go for a factory color and add some bare metal foil and, you know, call it a day. That's kind of the extent of the detail I go to. I try and take pride in making my paint jobs and my foil look good, because I feel like when the model's on the shelf, you know, that's what you see the most.
Each of these four cars have like such a great defining color. That brown might have even been the launch color or the color they had in the advertisement in the magazines for that car.
Yep.
It just looks just right, like you said, for the era. Pontiac in that
it's kind of a turquoise.
Yeah, that turquoise green with red stripes on the tires.
Yeah.
Such a great pull.
Yeah.
Contrast-wise.
A lot of colors going on.
Yeah,
sure.
And the tri-power.
Yep.
And of course, Plum Crazy on the Charger is always awesome.
So I know I was telling you earlier, I wanted to do a Mopar, and one Mopar for each high impact color that they had back in 1970, 1971. So that's my Plum Crazy car. I actually kind of pulled that body out and shot that paint on as kind of a test, believe it or not, and it came out pretty good, so I ran with it. Some come out great the first time you spray it, some don't. You put them back in the box. But that's kind of how I got started with that one. And then the Firebird, I'd always loved the first gen Firebirds, and I kind of wanted to do more of a subtle color combination because I go crazy with the colors, and so I kind of did, you know, something a little more tame, but I feel like it fits the style of the car.
I just think that mid-sized General Motors cars in a metallic color just really draws all that sculptured body lines really well.
Definitely, yeah.
The paint you used, is it airbrush, spray can?
So I do everything out of rattle cans.
Yep.
So these three are Testors lacquers with Testors lacquer clear on top, and then I'll generally take like 3000 grit sandpaper and just smooth them out, polish them to try and get as even a sheen as I can. They're never perfect, but they're pretty good, you know, for shelf models. The Firebird is to me a spray can silver leaf. That's sprayed out really nice. The Testor stuff can be a little finicky, but I really love the factory colors because again, factory stock is kind of my thing.
The gloss is just right. This has a real good factory look to it. Super high gloss like you'd expect in the showroom. But not over the top too much.
When you look at it, it's nice and even, but it's not like glowing in your face reflection. I like sticking with the hobby lacquers. They're just easy to use and pretty inexpensive.
So for your high impact cars, are they all going to be Chargers?
No, so I want to do, my goal is I want to do a separate 70 Mopar model for each color. So right now I have a yellow 70 CUDA, I have a pink 70 Super B, I have a 70, yeah, I was trying to get that finished for the show, but it just didn't make it. And I I have a couple others planned. I want to do an orange Superbird, and I have a Sublime Green. Actually, it's a Johan 70 Roadrunner, which is a pretty rare kit. So I have that in the works too. And then I have the other ones, the colors, but I'm not sure what car yet. So I'm trying to. I'll figure that out eventually. I have so many colors and cars in my head. You know, it's all about matching up like a factory color with a factory car and making it work.
Are you starting with the color more so than the car?
As crazy as it sounds sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's certain colors on cars like Hugger Orange on a GM, or Daytona Yellow, or even like a lot of the Mopar colors. Like I'm like, I have to do that color. But what's the appropriate car? And then
You're saying with the Mopar colors, if you have a certain color like B5 blue, you're kind of saying, okay, so I'll start with that. My choices are, and it breaks down to which Plymouth or Dodge.
Well, yeah. So for B5 blue, I always wanted. See, this is how crazy I am. I wanted a B5 blue car with a B5 blue interior because I thought that was cool. You know, blue with blue is like, you know, you never see that. So I'm gonna I have a 71 Charger I'm working on that's B5 blue interior with a B5 blue exterior. You had to really like blue to order a car like that, but they did make a decent amount of them, and I get fascinated with, you know, colors and wild stripe options that you could buy like new from the dealer back then. It almost looked like you handed the design to like a young kid and said like, hey, give me something really out there, you know, to put on the car from the factory.
Well, that's who they hope to sell to.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're, you know, so coveted today, you know, because obviously far from that now. So that's kind of, you know, again, my inspiration.
What do you use for reference?
I do a lot of research, and I look at a ton of reference pictures. It doesn't matter if I'm putting decals on or I'm doing engine wiring. We have the luxury now of, you know, looking on. You can look at like Mecum or Vera Jackson, and they give you all the underhood shots or anything you want to see. And it's great because you can replicate it and scale a lot easier that way. So
plus on sites like that, you get a critique.
Yeah.
It'll tell you, you know, like something is or isn't original, so you can really rest assured that what you're taking out of it is correct.
Exactly. I tend to do a lot of research on like what I'm building at the time because I can't get it out of my head, and I got to finish the build and put it on the shelf, and then I can move on. So for the '79 Camaro, there's a modeler in Ohio that I follow on Instagram, Jeff Bloomhoff, and he did one of these with the gold decals, and I always liked this Camaro body style, but when I saw the decals, I was like, I gotta build that kit in that configuration. The GTO, I've always loved the GTOs with the stacked headlights, you know, the 5, 6, and 7 GTOs, and this was like, I think the best Pontiac kit offering. I actually read a Scale Auto article by, I think it was Tim Boyd, and he did a review of this, and I bought the kit like the next day, so. The 70 Charger, who doesn't like the Dodge Charger? They're pretty awesome. I like the 70 model because you can get the first year for the high impact colors. I love the wraparound grille on the front, and the RT side scoops I think are awesome. And then the 68 Firebird is one of my favorite GM designs. I just love the way the front comes to peak, and it's got the louvers behind the doors. And I just think it's a really slick looking car. The hood tag, you know, just all the stuff that they did back then from the factory is so cool to me. The Mopar body styles are so out there, and I think that's why they're really popular cars to build.
It's interesting to kind of compare all three of these because they're almost the same era.
Yep.
And how hard sculpted this is, and compared to how the Pontiac is a little softer. You know, this Pontiac is a little hard edged. You know, and they always said the difference between a Firebird and the equivalent Camaro was if you had the clay model. You know, they'd have the clay model all laid out. They'd start with a Firebird, and the joke was that it was the guys in the shop who just take their hands and just rub it across the model to smooth out all the sharp edges.
Yeah.
And you've got a Camaro.
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate, I'd say. Because I feel like the Camaro is so much more soft. You know, a lot of the hard lines that we said aren't there. But it is funny, like, you know, you look at the Charger and the GTO, right? Like, look at their rear window design. They're extremely similar. You know, the tunneled rear window. That's one of my favorite features too. And even like, you know, turning this one around, the eyebrow taillights are a cool stylistic element for that model year only. So
What I always really loved about GM cars was the way they would design the upper angle of the bumper.
yeah,
So when you were sitting behind it in traffic, and this car had its brake lights on, those brake lights, not only would you see them, for real, but you'd also see them reflected in the bumper. So it was almost as if it doubled the effect of the brake lights. It's really apparent on like a C2 Corvette. You get like a real clear reflection of the brake lights again in the bumper. So I just think it's so cool because they designed them in play, and how they figured that angle. It took a lot of work.
yeah.
To cover it over or make it gloss enough that they could calculate that reflection.
That's a great point. I never thought about something like that, but that is true. I mean, you think about the C2 Corvette, I feel like the taillights maybe are angled down maybe a little bit.
Rear panel comes back a little bit.
The GTO and the A-body GM cars, I think they're really elegant. They have their stylistic elements like the hood and, with the scoop and everything, and even more like subtly like this line that runs down the tops of the fenders and stuff. And, I think it's a beautiful body, but it's also like simple at the same time.
You open the hood.
It comes that way from the kit.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. So,
Did not know that.
yeah. So I can't take credit for that.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm looking forward to seeing you when you come to a show with all those high impact colors.
Yeah.
All fanned out.
That's the plan. I want to have them all lined up, and I think it'd be kind of a cool display. They're so out there.
They're the legends.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Good talking.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.